Assalamu alaikum and good afternoon, everyone. This is Iram Salim, and I welcome you all on behalf of VaporVM. This webinar has been arranged with the discussion of OWASP Top 10 and the impacts of it on the business. With me, I have Ahsan Ali Khan and Shahir Khalid, who will be presenting with me. We are cybersecurity analysts at VaporVM. So, starting with what is our agenda for today's presentation is, we would be discussing the security threats of web application, which are OWASP Top 10 web vulnerabilities. We would be discussing the major case studies of the most recent cyber breaches we have faced in different with different companies, and these companies are, you can say, most popular companies. We would be describing what testing standards we follow and what frameworks we follow. Also, we would be giving you an overview that what VaporVM cybersecurity services are and how we can help different companies and our customers in gaining the security what they want and protecting them from the cyber attacks. What is an organization? So, an organization is an organization is a combination of different branches and different offices which are interconnected with internet. They all are interconnected with different IPS providers, and every thing is interconnected. We have different headquarters, and headquarters are connected with different branches. So everything, you can say, a company or an organization has different web applications, mobile applications, which are always interconnected with different branches and offices. So basically what we are discussing today is the OWASP Top Web Application. What is OWASP? OWASP is basically Open Web Application Security Project, which is an online community that produces freely available articles, methodologies, documentations, tools in the field of web application security. But not only web application security, it also provides different documentations for mobile applications as well, for APIs as well. And there are all different domains of security in which OWASP helps our community. OWASP was first released in 2003, and the most recent list of the top 10 vulnerabilities of web was updated in 2017. The most favorite, or you can say the most top web vulnerabilities are injection, broken authentication, sensitive data exposure, XML external entities, broken access control, security misconfigurations, cross-site scripting, insecure deserialization, using components with known vulnerabilities, and insufficient logging and monitoring. These are the most common or the most famous or the most favorite vulnerabilities which are existent in the web applications. We would be discussing all not a very deep down discussion regarding this, but yes, we would be giving an overview of these vulnerabilities and what are the major impacts of these vulnerabilities. SQL injection attack or the injection attack. SQL injection attack is, you can say, the most favorite or the most famous vulnerability for the attackers, which is common in our websites, as there's a very huge amount of websites over the internet, and not every website is very secure, and there are very huge chances of different vulnerabilities available in the website. So SQL injection attack basically is the websites which are based on SQL, I mean like SQL driven websites, in which if the security policies are not very integrated or they are not very likely to be there, the hacker utilizes the SQL malicious queries and input them through the input forms. I mean like there are always some input information from the websites we are using. So the hacker uses that form and uses that form and injects different malicious SQL queries. If that malicious query is not identified due to the security policies updated, it can be executed over the database which is running at the backside of the website. Let's suppose if that malicious SQL query is executed by the database is compromised, and the hacker gets the access of the database. With that, whole of the database of that particular website is now accessible to the hacker. With that, he can access to the administrative rights, and also it can compromise all of the other data which is present in the database. Moving on to the next, our vulnerabilities. I mean, as I told you that this vulnerability is one of the most famous. I mean, like the most recent attack was also, you can find it on this daily update regarding the SQL injection uses. And it was on 21st January 2021 when an attack was done on, and I guess it was an army scenario in which this attack was done. You can find the latest information over this Daily Swing newsletter. Second is broken authentication attack. Broken authentication. With authentication, the word authentication elaborates itself that giving specific credentials of a specific person is like having the correct information for a specific person is authentication. This diagram basically explains the most common authentication attack what can be done. Basically, broken authentication has different variable scenarios of attacks. I mean, like there are very possible scenarios in which broken authentication attack can be done, but the most common used authentication attack is explained in this example. I mean, like what happens in this broken authentication is an attacker uses an application which a victim is also using. Using the forget password, the most common scenario is the forget password scenario, in which the attacker uses the forget password scenario and sends a email with their evil link to the victim. And if the victim is not smart enough to look into the link, that this whether they have used the password reset link, they uses the link, and the link gives the token of, you can say, the session of the legitimate users to the hacker. The hacker uses that token to reset their password. I mean, like if in this scenario, the victim is not changing their password, but now due to the victim clicking on the specific link provided by the hacker will get the token or the session of the website in which the victim has its account. Then they can change the password and access the whatever scenario, whatever application they are using, they can access the whole thing. In this scenario, to mitigate this thing, two-factor authentication is highly recommended to overcome this attack scenario. Other goes as far as we have sensitive information disclosure. I mean, like in the sensitive information disclosure, there are a few vulnerabilities in the web application with which an unauthorized user can view different sensitive informations of other users, or you can say different pages or different important data which a single user has its own on there. The other unauthorized users can view that data. XML external entities, as now XML is one of the common processing scenario for our web applications. So the applications which are processing XML for different operations, for example, like file system access we are doing for the web applications and backend or external system calls. If the session for the XML in out to the client and server scenario is not secured in process of building the website, the XML entities can carry different RCE commands. RCE commands are remotely executable commands. With that commands, XML entities can take the commands if proper policies are not implemented. which leads to definitely RC, and there are different impacts which can be done. The website can be compromised, and with that SQL command, with that RC command, the hacker can access everything. Broken access control. Access is like there is authentication and there is access. Access is, you can say, like we are giving the scenario, like one is authorized and one, what can he access, one a person or specific with specific credentials can access. So if there is a scenario that a person can access one person's data with their credentials, is broken access control. It allows unauthorized users to access others' sensitive data. If proper policies or proper scenarios are not implemented, this is a very common vulnerability among our websites. Security misconfigurations. Misconfigured security controls, which can cause definitely information security. This is also like we have config files in our websites. If these config files are not properly configured, definitely they could lead to information disclosure. Cross-site scripting, one of the most also common vulnerability, which is like we are using with this like this picture explains how cross-site scripting works. Hacker injects a trusted website with a malicious script. I mean, like for example, in some input forms, if a website input form is not validating the data, what data is coming into the form, and it is accepting the data, and if that website is used by another user, if the script malicious script is entered is injected in the website, that script will be run by other users. If the other user runs the script, that malicious script will work on the user, making it making its computer or its PC as vulnerable through the website. So if the victim executes the malicious script, the hacker could have the session ID, their session IDs and their cookie. The hacker can have their cookie, and using their cookies and their sessions, they can communicate with the server being a using that legitimate user and interpreting what they are doing. Other are insecure deserialization, like our application uses serialization and deserializations. So application insecurely deserializations user control data to input validation. We'll make basically in this, if information coming through the website is not validated, like the input info which has been inputted in the website is not validated, definitely a deserialization scenario can be acted, which can also lead to RC, as I explained in the XML scenario as well. Using different components with known vulnerabilities like application libraries or frameworks which are mostly executed in full privileges. Like sometimes there are scenarios we execute an application with full privilege. We are not looking at it that what privileges they are asking, and without knowing that, if we run the application with full privilege, it can seriously attack on our scenario in our sessions and can take over our servers. Insufficient logging and monitoring. Let's suppose like we are not logging or monitoring the input and outflow of the website, which could lead to different scenarios. I mean, like let's suppose if what information is getting into our website and who is accessing it and what number of users are accessing it, it's just not monitored and it's not being logged, the attack can be done, and the attack in this scenario would be undetectable. I mean, like with these scenarios we can have different and high risk losses for the businesses. That's all for my side. Now I'll be handing over the session to Shahir Khalid. He would be discussing the case studies with our one of the most famous scenarios. Handing over to you, Shahir Khalid. Please continue. Shahir Khalid, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Hello, can you hear me?
Your voice is very low.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, it's better.
Okay. Thank you, Aaron. As we have highlighted the web application threats, which are badly threatening and damaging the businesses nowadays very badly. In support of those, I have three use cases, and in these use cases, I will explain how attacks happen and what we learn from them and how we implement those scenarios in our activities. Next slide, please. Okay, the very first attack I'm going to discuss is about SolarWinds. It's a very well-known company. It's an American organization uh, that builds softwares for businesses and for businesses to manage their networks and their system and their information technology infrastructures. And SolarWinds, under SolarWinds umbrella, there is a platform called Orion, and in this attack scenario, the update servers for Orion was hacked, and attacker hacked into the update servers and uploaded malware in those servers, and they uploaded in the way that the next coming update of Orion platform that gonna have malware in it, and which companies are using those that's Orion platform gonna affected by that malware. And now the question is how attackers get into update servers of Orion. Uh, they the credentials for update servers was available on GitHub. GitHub is a platform companies use it for software version control, and the password they were using on their for their update servers was SolarWinds 123, which is also a very weak password. Anyone can guess it very easily. I have this diagram that explains the attack very well. Uh, as I have described, that attackers injected malware in update server and update servers of Orion, and uh, the malware executed on those companies, on those organization Orion application, that those were using Orion application. The companies using Orion application at that time was Microsoft, VMware, Intel, and Cisco. These companies all also get affected by this attack. Okay, next slide. Okay, the next use case I have is about Microsoft. In January 2020, Microsoft left open their databases, and for weeks this database remained totally open with no proper authentication and protection. And in this uh, in this expose, the information was leaked. Information included in that leak was emails, IP addresses, and support case details of users. And the amount of data was 20 to 50 million users data. And the fun fact is Microsoft claims that the information was not exposed, but hackers may still have obtained the information necessary for the future scams. Even you can find this data on dark web easily. The Microsoft breach highlights the Microsoft breach highlights that not even the largest and the most advanced enterprises on planet can neglect their cybersecurity. So coming on the next use case is about Zoom. Uh, since the outbreak of COVID mandated social distancing, outbreak of COVID mandated social distancing, and more companies started using Zoom for their meetings, for everything. With the increasing demand on Zoom, there was a increasing security threat on Zoom, and due to that, cybersecurity researchers comes up with an attack named Zoom bombing. With this attack, anyone can intrude into any meeting by brute forcing meeting ID, and if they can get into meeting, they can do anything in that meeting. Additionally, cybersecurity researchers found Zoom did not use end-to-end encryption, but they have mentioned on their website they are using end-to-end encryption. But after that, they have realized they are not using end-to-end encryption. They took 90-day freeze and stop updating their software. And for 90 days, they kept working on securing their application. Okay. Why I'm telling these attacks to you, because being service provider, being VaporVM, we are trying to aware you about the security threats and security challenges to an organization. How badly these attacks affect an organization, you can see in these attack scenarios. Next slide, please. Okay. After seeing all these, cybersecurity challenges, organization left with only two options. First option, they can go on their own and secure their platform, their digital asset, their every digital asset they can secure on their own. The second option is they can take VaporVM's help, and as a infosec vendor, we can help securing your organization, and we keep ourselves updated. Uh, and in the next slide, please. uh, these are the services we are providing, and we have divided it into four sections. The first section is digital security assessment, and second section is compliance assessment, and after that managed SOC, and at the end we have cybersecurity solution. In the next coming slides, Essen will be discussing on the methodologies we use in our activities. And thank you. Passing over to you, Essen.
Okay. I am audible? Hello.
Yes.
Yes, Essen.
Okay. Thanks, Shahir, for explaining the real world scenarios. Now it's time to discuss some of the security standards. Security standards and frameworks that are helpful and provide a right direction to penetrate the vulnerable environment, like in web pen testing, network pen testing, etc. The purpose of discussing these standard manuals and security frameworks is to introduce to the security implementation, standard guidelines, methodologies, processes, and best practices. We're not gonna deep dive into the details, but have a general discussion. So the standards I'd like to discuss are penetration testing execution standards, open source security testing methodology manual, and finally we discuss about MITRE ATT&CK framework. We use our custom build methods derived from these well-reputed worldwide security standards. VaporVM cybersecurity services based on these standards in our pen testing assignments. There are a lot of other security standards like HIPAA, Healthcare Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, National Institute of Standards and Technology Cybersecurity Framework, General Data Protection Regulation Framework, Payment Card Industry Standard Security Standard, PCI DSS. But due to some time limitations, we only discuss all these three. So this is so penetration testing execution standard. This is our first security standard I'd like to discuss. So it is a standardized set of procedures and guidelines for penetration testing. Penetration testing has been around for quite some time, but there weren't any rules and regulations, or you can say guidelines for early pen testers. Businesses didn't know what to expect and what they need. A brief background of this execution standard is that back to 2009, a group of experts in the field of cybersecurity, sit together to form the penetration testing execution standard. This standard is made up of rules and guidelines that help businesses know what to expect and how to evaluate pen testing. Should they conduct pen tests themselves or hire external services? Before going into the penetration testing execution standard, I'd like to spend few seconds to explain what actually penetration testing is. So, penetration testing is a form of ethical hacking. It's a way to understand the weaknesses in your IT assets by impersonating as an attacker to find the security flaws and weaknesses and try to exploit them to showcase how a malicious hacker could damage your company. There are different kind of pen tests with different scopes, like black box pen test or white box pen test, but this is out of scope, so I'll not go into the details. Coming back to our current security standard, the main objective, or you can say the primarily goal of this security standard, is to create a standard procedures or set of baseline expectations for the process that all pen testers should follow. This standard penetration testing execution standard recommends a structured approach to a penetration test. This and its guides through the phases of penetration testing with communication, like from pre-engagement, information gathering, threat modeling. Also, this penetration execution standard knows the organization's process, which helps them to identify the most vulnerable areas that are prone to attack. Okay, so PTE standard provides guidelines to the testers for post-exploitation testing techniques as well. If required, they can validate the successful fixing of previously identified vulnerabilities. This standard has 7 phases that guarantees successful penetration testing with recommendations to rely on. Okay, next. Okay, these are the 7 phases or sections which corresponds to the order of steps taken in any pen testing activities. Let's briefly discuss each of the as follows. Pre-engagement phases. This is the first phase of penetration testing execution standard, which provides procedures for pre-engagement phases. In this phase, the client has a meeting with the penetration testers to discuss and set the scope of the security testing. Other than that, discuss some goals of pen test, scope of analysis, identifying areas to be analyzed, and duration of pen test, etc., or something like that depends on a project scope. So this is all about first phase of penetration testing execution standard. The second phase, we have an intelligence gathering, aka also known as OSINT. In this phase, the pen testers will utilize all the publicly available information and perform some basic searches following the rules of engagement, specifically that we decide in our previous first section. This process, also called an open source intelligence gathering process, as we know from its name, compiles all the information that may be useful in the later stage of testing activities. After the second phase of pen test, the next phase is threat modeling. This requires mapping out what particular assets are most likely to be targeted by the ethical hackers or malicious hackers, as well as what resources may be used to target these assets. Coming to the next phase, we have a vulnerability analysis phase, where a penetration tester analyzes the security threats and vulnerabilities found by the intelligence gathering, which is our first phase of information gathering, and helps to and also with the help of some automated tools. Next, in the exploitation phase, the identified vulnerabilities is validated whether these vulnerabilities are valid or invalid, and check the severity level, how impactful the vulnerability is. This is actually the mean of exploitation is. After this phase, the penetration tester tries to get into the compromised system and elevate the system level privileges. This is called the post-exploitation phase. And reporting, this is a very crucial phase of every pen testing. In this phase, the pen tester should document all of its findings that he used, tools, technologies, methodologies, pen test the number of identified vulnerabilities, and some mitigations of the identified vulnerabilities. So Each of the section covers an in-depth procedure a professional penetration testers should consider during the particular phase of each engagement. It covers also anything from engagement to exploiting vulnerabilities, threat modeling, post-exploitation, phishing, and other social engineering attacks. More importantly, uh, more importantly, you can say it explains how interpret some of the results that can be uncovered and how to work toward exploiting the vulnerabilities found. Okay, makes sense. Next slide. Okay. Next, we have an open source security testing methodology manual, OSS TMM. This security methodology manual is all about security, operational security, which is mean of knowing and measuring how well security works. So, and this standard is maintained by the Institute for Security and Open Methodology, ISCOM. This manual is updated every 6 months. The main objective of this security manual is to provide comprehensive security safety tests and a scientific process for the accurate characterization of operational security that can be used for penetration testing, ethical hacking, and other security testing activities. Okay. Back in 2000, OSS TMM rapidly grew up to cover all the security channels with thousands of active collaborators. And in 2005, this standard is considered as a framework, or you can say a collection of best practices to ensure the correct realization of safety at the operational level. Now the standard is recognized as an industry standard, provides a technical methodology for network penetration testing and vulnerability assessment also. This is a complete and in-depth guide to the network development team and penetration testers to identify the security vulnerabilities present in the network. This OSS TMM methodology enables penetration testers to perform customized testing that fits the technological and specific need of the organization. A customized assessment gives an overview of the network security along with a reliable solution to make appropriate decisions to secure an organization's network. Next slide. So, okay. This security manual, OSS TMM, provides guidance on how to test the operational security for the following 5 security areas. So an organization can understand the security posture and determine how well their security processes actually functions. It's about what your operations actually do and do not, and not just what you are supposed to do. Okay. So these are the 5 security areas: human security, physical security, wireless communication, telecommunication, and data networks. Human security is a security of human interactions and communications that is evaluated operationally as a means of testing. And physical security is a protection of people, property, and physical assets from actions and events that could cause damage or loss, or referred to as physical security. In wireless communication, all the electrical communications signals are all considered wireless communication that are part of the operational security testing. In telecommunications, whether the telecommunication network is digital or analog, it doesn't matter. Any communication that is conducted over telephone or network lines are tested in the OSS TMM methodology manual. Lastly, the security testing of data networks include electronic systems and data networks that are used for communication or interaction via cable and wired network lines falls under the data network category. Next. So the last standard I'd like to discuss also is a MITRE attack. So what actually this framework is, starting with a brief background, MITRE is a government-funded research organization based in Bedford and McLean. The MITRE ATT&CK framework was created by MITRE in 2013 to document attacker tactics and techniques or procedures, you can say, based on the real-world observations related to the cybersecurity. So what an attack stands for? It stands for adversarial tactics, techniques, and common knowledge. The attack framework is used as a foundation for the development of specific threat models and methodologies in the private sector, government sectors, and in the cybersecurity product and service community. In a few past years, attack framework has become one of the most respected and most referenced resource in cybersecurity, which is the knowledge base of hacking techniques you can use to defend your network from cybersecurity threats. Also, this framework has gained a lot of popularity in the security industry over the few past years. Also, this framework is available and accessible to everyone, every organization, and every organization can use free of charge and is updated quarterly based on the publicly available intelligence and incident response and reporting. Because attack is a constantly developed based on new attack vectors, contributions from outside the MITRE are welcome to help the community to uncover new techniques and other relevant information. So why we use this framework, or you can say why it is important to use this framework as part of guidance in our cybersecurity activities, right? So this framework was created to help protect Microsoft Windows, Linux, and Mac OS systems from potential threats, and then expanded to also include the mobile devices. This framework offers practical way for enterprises to assess and improve their security posture. Now, this framework is one of the most complete and definitive resources of hacker techniques used by IT and system and security teams to pinpoint their organization's risk and prioritize and focus their protections effort available today. Other than that, security professionals increasingly talk about cyber attack techniques in attack terms, and they are building defenses based on the MITRE attack models. So some of the use cases of attack frameworks I'd like to add are, we can use this framework is to plan our cybersecurity strategy, build your defense to count the known techniques, and equip your monitoring to detect evidence of attack techniques in your network. We can also use this framework as a reference for incident response team, and incident response can use attack this framework to determine the nature of the threats you are encountering and methods to mitigate the threats. From this security framework, the incident response team can now use as a reference for new cybersecurity threats and plan ahead. It also helps you assess your overall cybersecurity strategy and close any gaps that you discover. Okay. So these are some security standards and frameworks that I think it's important to understand. Okay. Next. That is pretty much from my side. Thank you. If you have any questions, you can ask.
Please, if anyone has any questions, mention it in the comment box. We'll be answering in here now. Okay, so I think there are no questions for now. This session, recorded session, will be sent it to all of the one who has registered. So for now, the session has been ended. Would like to thank you all who have joined. Thank you so much. Allah Hafiz. Bye bye.